Hi, right. I've never done this before, so you're going to have to bear with me on this. This is the very first time I've ever done a YouTube video, and I've only done it because of popular demand about my tester. So this video is really just going to be an overview of the tester and basically what it does. Okay, I'm going to do probably more videos which will go into more in-depth stuff, showing you how to run test programs, edit test programs, and so on and so forth. Right. So anyway, here I am. The whole point of the tester, basically how it started, was it was for my own benefit, because I went out and bought an old moon-based cabinet, a cocktail table for buttons really, and it transpires this thing had been sitting in a damp shed for about 20 years, and as you can imagine, nothing on it worked. It was completely ruined, effectively. So it took me months and months and months and months to get it working. And as I was working my way through the board, I was obviously going through all the usual things like changing chips, etc., not solving the problems, you know, whatever. And I decided there was a better way of doing this, and this is why I sort of came up with this tester idea. Really, it's you know, the board's basically, this is what basically I've got it to do. Right, this is, as you can see, a Space Invader moon-based board set. It's been heavily repaired, however it's still pretty good, and now it's 100% working. A lot of the faults that I found on it were very difficult to find just using a scope and a logic probe, etc. And due to my background in electronics, I decided to try and do something else. So I got one of these Arduino boards, which are pretty good. I went for the Mega one, the Mega 2560, because it had 54 pins on it. And that then gave me the idea that I can control the data bus, the address buses, and so on. And I could then start to think about controlling the actual board that I was trying to repair. So this is how it all came about. So after months of fiddling around with an Arduino board hooked up to a laptop with a serial monitor on it, I got it basically to sort of control the address, the data lines of the Space Invader boards, and then I developed more bits of code for it to do things like the shifter tests and a variety of other things, and it's really just mushroomed from there. It's just developed. So really, this is the tester here. As you can see, this is what I'm actually advertising on that forum, and as you can see, it's not terribly big. It's actually quite small. It's a small plastic box. It's got an Arduino inside it, but I've also put a Raspberry Pi 3 in it as well. The reason being for that is the Pi 3 effectively is like a PC. It's got a Linux-based PC, and that has the facility to program as well. So, you know, it can do very good front-end stuff. You can make applications and whatever else, and you can put it on the screen. So if you link that up to the Arduino, you've then got a pretty good system for controlling pins and whatever else, and you can do it in a very nice way, as I found out. So it's been a learning curve for me as well, because this is all new. I've learned Python by doing this. I've learned obviously programming the Arduino. So it's developed from there. Now if I take the lid off this thing, hopefully, as you can see, it'll come off quite easily if you take the screws out, and no doubt you guys will do this when you get them. You'll see inside, if you can see that, there is actually an Arduino in there. There's an Arduino, and then there's a Raspberry Pi 3. Now it's actually embedded. I call them embedded because I've designed a motherboard. The first tester I built was basically all thrown together. It was all wires everywhere and variables and whatever else, and to be honest with you, it took ages to make, and nobody would want to buy it if I sold it anyway. So I decided to put it all on a motherboard and make it a little bit neater and more practical and also more reliable, and this is what I've ended up with. So you can see inside is, if you can actually look at that, you will see there's a motherboard all in the bottom of it that has everything on it. There's the Arduino, as I've talked about, there's the Raspberry Pi, there's a speaker, and there's also a buzzer which gives a tone, and that's used in a variety of different things in the tester. On the other side of it, if I pull it around like that, you'll see there's also the LED displays here, These are linked directly to the Arduino, and they display information about the pins and what's actually happening at the time. There's an LCD display. It's a touchscreen 3.5-inch colour LCD display, and that's hooked up to the Raspberry Pi. And then you've got a variety of other stuff over here which is all analog, and that basically is for the probe circuit and power supplies. I'll get to that soon once I show you it working a little bit. That really is your tester. So on the front you've got two connectors, two 25-way female D shells. I call that one connector A and that one there connector B. You have a B and C connection, which is the probe connection. There's an LED to tell you it's powered up. There's no on-off switch on this, so when you plug it in with the mains adapter supplied, it'll obviously power up. To power it down, you have to go through a routine. If you just pull the plug on it, Linux doesn't really like that very much, and you end up with errors when you start it up the next time around. But it doesn't kill it, but it's not a good thing. So there's a shutdown procedure you have to follow. The LED displays are in there, and you've got your touch screen there. On the side of it, you'll see there's typical Raspberry Pi stuff. You've got your 4 USBs and a LAN connection. Because it's a Pi 3, there's built-in Wi-Fi as well, and you've got Bluetooth. I've not done anything with the Bluetooth, but the Bluetooth's in it. The Wi-Fi, you can set that up, and you can then obviously browse the internet, etc. on it as well. The rear panel has an earth connection, which is the green one at the top there. That's very important. When you use this tester, you have to make sure that it has a common ground to the board you're testing. Otherwise it will just get false results and it won't work very well. So you have to have it grounded to a common ground. So that's why it's got that. There's an AV connection down there, which is a 3.5-inch jack. 3.5 mil jack, I should say. Never really done anything with it, but you can plug that in and get it onto a composite monitor, I believe, but I've never tried it. There's an HDMI connection which is used, so if you want an external monitor on it, you can plug that into there. I'll show you how you switch it over in a minute or two. DC going in there, which is the connection there. It's a 9-volt DC supply it relies on. Rated about an amp. The unit will take about 700 milliamps, so a 1 amp supply will be fine, but it has to be 9 volt. If you put in 12 volt, the thing will overheat and it will probably cut out, so it's not a good thing. So 9 volt is really what you need, and I supply a UK mains adapter to do that. If you're in the US or whatever, obviously you'll need one to suit your main supply. A USB connection's there. That is only used when you download new software into the Arduino. The Arduino is preloaded with software, and when I supply you with an update, you then connect it into there and download it into there. The unit has got an internal serial link, so you don't need any USB connections at all to the Arduino when you run it. It basically is a standalone box. And that's pretty much it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lid back on this. Hopefully I'm doing alright so far. Put the lid back on this, and then I'm going to plug it all in and show you it powering up. So, if you just bear with me for a second. So I'll plug in my external HDMI connection. It won't go onto that initially, but I'll show you that. An earth wire, so it's got an earth connection, which is very important. The other thing I'll turn this camera around so you can see the thing a bit more. So from now on you'll probably just see my hands, not much else, which is probably a good thing actually. Right, so there's a USB. Now I'm going to have a mouse on this. You'll need a keyboard and a mouse, a typical USB one. You can use a you can use a wireless mouse keyboard, which is what I've got here as well, you can see, with a dongle. But I tend to prefer a mouse, so I'm going to plug both in, and you'll see me doing that, hopefully, if this camera works well. It's quite an old camera, but it seems to still work amazingly. Right, so if I plug in my mouse, I've got a dongle. These things you can get on Amazon.